Hey, familia y amigos. Welcome to another episode of Don't Limit Your Identity podcast with your host, Jay and Maestro Alicea. And today we're on episode number 8. I'm super excited because my guest today made a trip to be here in person. She traveled from Missouri, Columbia, and made a point to be here. The power of social media. We were able to connect through social media several years back. Now we're meeting in person. At one point during COVID, we did a recording online as well. So I'm excited to have her. You have to hear her story. It's definitely empowering and inspiring. I want you to not only watch it, but share with others. Let me get straight to it. Priscilla Rose, welcome to our podcast.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here in person. It's my first trip to Chicago, and I'm telling you, I'm loving it. It's a little bit colder than what I like, but it's all right.
I was hoping we would have had the nice weather we had last weekend, but it's a little chilly. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that you made the point to be here. So your presence is creating some heat for us. And so
There you go.
Excited. Like I share with our audience, you know, the power of social media, how we connected through Instagram, and through there it evolved to a friendship. And now we're here together today. Having you here to share your story. So I'm excited about that. Let's jump right into it. Why don't you share with our viewers a little bit about yourself, your background, and how it led to today with R.I.S.E.
All right. So, again, thank you for inviting me here today. You gave me an excuse to come to Chicago, getting it off my bucket list. But yeah, I spent over 17 years in education. I was a teacher, a principal, a statewide director, regional coordinator, did all the things. But there were some critical moments in my life that made me reevaluate, okay, is this my purpose? Is this my passion? And I started exploring what more is there to impact, and going through my own personal journey of finding my own rise, walking into my own greatness. I was like, man, I can help other people do the same. And so I started vision planning in 2022 and started working on a business plan, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do now, but I literally feel like I'm living in my dream. But like you said, the power of social media. When I met you, I was literally online and I came across your content on Instagram. I started learning about Don't Limit Your Identity, and I was literally trying to find my own identity during that time.
Wow.
And it was powerful because I wore a mask of success.
Wow.
And it gave me the courage to take that mask off and find myself.
I love that you touched on that right before we came to get onto the studio. We took a little drive, gave you a little sightseeing of Chicago, and you were able to see that mural. And with that, you were touching on mask. And so now you're even speaking to where you were at some point having that mask, and how many, battle with certain things and have a mask to share that they're happy, but what truly inside they're not. So I love it that you touched on that because, when it comes to teachable moments, it's all about God, family, and everything else. And you and I share so much in common when it comes for our passion, giving back to the community, and just empowering many. So tell me more about R.I.S.E, because I know that we touched on it earlier, and I'm just excited for the audience to hear what is R.I.S.E all about, how is it impacting your community, and how your 2022 vision has become a reality.
Well, I first want to start out with a little bit of the logo because it kind of goes into the rise. And so there was a moment in 2018 where I almost lost my life due to domestic violence. And I seen this image of this rose coming out of the concrete. And I started writing poetry. And I started signing all the poetry, Rose Speaks, all the time. And then in November of 2019, I got on stage for the first time and I signed my name, Priscilla Rose. See, Rose wasn't a name that I was born with. It wasn't a name that I got through marriage. It was a name that I claimed on a stage because I was in the midst of trying to find my own rise and rise up out of the ashes of what was meant to kill me. I was going to make it build me.
Amen to that. Wow.
And so I started, getting on stage. I found my voice. And then in March of 2020, Rose became my legal name. And it was a moment to where I was like, well, who is Rose? I started writing to her daily. And that's where read, imagine, script, and exercise comes in. As I started reading from all the greats, I started imagining what it's going to be when I meet Rose someday. And then I started scripting. I started writing down my visions and my dreams. And then I started exercising the mind, body, and spirit, learning from the Ed Milet, reading the book, The Power of One More, listening to Les Brown, where he said, you got to be hungry.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I can learn from the greats, I can teach from the greats. And so, whenever, even this whole podcast with the whole teachable moments, when we learn to give back to the former version of ourselves, we walk into the version that we're built to be. And that's what God spoke to me in 2022. That was the day when I realized it was time to leave education, because let me tell you a little bit why education was my mask. Because when I was growing up in school, school was the only place I was safe at. I learned early in elementary school, as long as I was at school, I was safe. And so I learned to wear this great mask, to where at school, all everybody seen was an honor roll student and later on a star athlete. But nobody asked questions about home, and that's what I needed. But there was one teacher that seen me, and she was a school to careers coordinator. Her name was Barbara Hutchison. My senior year of high school, nobody knew I was homeless. But she found me sleeping in a car, and she offered me an opportunity to become part of the school to careers program. My mind got opened up to more, wasn't even thinking about college. I was just trying to survive, living house to house, homeless, and trying to keep up my mask at school. So as soon as I graduated high school, I did the college thing, right? But all I ever wanted to be was Barbara Hutchison, because I still didn't know my own identity. I didn't know who I was. All I knew is I wanted to impact kids the way Barbara Hutchison impacted me. I wanted to impact athletes the way that my basketball coach impacted me, because there was two ladies that was critical to me when I was in high school, and that was my basketball coach and Barbara Hutchison. So I just wanted to be those two ladies. But again, because I didn't heal from my past and the trauma that I experienced as a kid, what did I do? I invited trauma and that energy into my life as an adult, and I put on a mask again. I became highly successful in education, just like how when I was a student, I was very successful. Now, as a teacher, then as a principal and a coordinator, I was able to let everybody see success to where nobody asked questions about home.
Wow.
So I still wear a mask, but subconsciously, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, is I was using, every time things in my life got hard, my brain went, go to school, you'll be safe there. So when things got hard in my early 20s, I went and got a bachelor's degree. Things got hard in my 30s, I went and got a master's degree. But I'll be damn, I'm going to wait till something goes bad to get my doctorate degree. But I did. When things got bad, I went to school. But in 2022, there was this moment of, I'm Rose now. It's time to take that mask off. Who is this woman? When I look in the mirror, what do I see? Rose is staring back at me. So who is she? So then I started vision planning. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, you take away all titles that I had in education. I was a coach and I was a speaker. And how can I help women and young people the way Rose would help them? Not the way Barbara Hutchison or Sally Jones would help them, but as Rose would help them through my own story of helping them find their own rise. But because I'd been an employee my whole life, I didn't have the mindset of an entrepreneur. I didn't have a mindset of a business owner. I didn't even know how to do an LLC or even set up a business bank account. I had to YouTube everything and then just fell forward, learned forward. But in 2023, I was given an opportunity to go back to my hometown. They had a head girls basketball coaching position available.
Okay.
At a social studies position available, teach high school social studies. That's all I ever wanted to do when I first got into education years ago. I just wanted to be a high school social studies teacher and a girls basketball coach. And all of a sudden, when I'm out of education, God got jokes. He's going to offer me an opportunity to do that when I've done retired from education. But he had a purpose for that too. And this is going to get into the why I really went with R.I.S E as far as with my coaching business, is because when I went back home, I took the head girls basketball coaching position, the teaching position. But when I walked through those halls that very first day, I was like, I get to be Barbara Hutchison in these kids' lives, but they get to be Rose. And what I seen and what I experienced there let me know why I've been put in the position that I have to be able to do more outside of the school system. And so I did my year there, and then I left and I went back to Columbia, and I turned down some pretty big jobs. When I was able to say no to false security and say yes to me, and I didn't even know what that was, I knew I was ready to finally rise into my own greatness. And I knew that God was going to bring the who's in my life when I didn't know the how.
Love how God does that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you even touched on it, right? How Barbara played an impact in your life and where you're at today, and now how you're putting what Barbara did for you, but you're also 10xing it to a whole different level to help inspire them even further than the way Barbara helped you. So who has God put in your life today to help you with your entrepreneurial journey?
So whenever I decided to join the chamber this year, it was January of this year, literally, I started walking into rooms as Rose speaks. I started going to networking events. And all of a sudden, all these people that I needed just started appearing. All the people that was going to be a part of my team. Whatever skill you're lacking, whatever you want to do with your business, you've got to get into the rooms with those people. That was one of the biggest things that I learned. And so I ended up meeting Ray Hall, and it was actually through my daughter. She was at her part-time job where she goes to school, and she came home with a business card. And this was back in February of this year.
Okay.
She came home with a business card, and she said, "Mom, I just met you and a man." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, he's weird, just like you." She's like, "You got to go meet this guy." A week passed. You know how when you get a business card, you forget to call somebody. I didn't call him. He showed back up at the gas station where my daughter was working at. He said, "Your mama still ain't called me yet." So she came home. She said, "Really? I finally give you a business card, Mom, and you don't call somebody? What's wrong with you?" Like, "Okay, Bethany, I'm going to call him." And when I went and did a tour of Dreamtree, I literally cried whenever I left. And this is why I cried, Jay. I didn't know why God took me back to Crothersville, the town that was full of pain, the place where I grew up or whatever. But I needed to heal the former 17-year-old version of Priscilla so I could truly be the Rose that he was prepping me to be. There was an old abandoned Walmart building there in Crothersville that was across the field from the projects where I grew up at. My mom worked at that Walmart. It closed down years ago. And when I first got to Crothersville, after walking through the halls, seeing what I did, for some reason I stopped at that old Walmart building. And I went and I put my hand on the wall. And when I did, I seen this entrepreneurial academy for youth, where youth were running businesses and the community was coming in and being served by kids.
Come on, man.
Kids were finding their voice.
All right.
And I seen it and I was like, "God, what are you trying to show me here?" But I kind of put it off because I didn't know what was supposed to happen, right? I walk into Dreamtree Academy and it literally has 4 things that I seen in my dream. It wasn't for me to run an academy. It was because I was going to walk into the academy that I was going to help run. Because God don't tell us the how. He's got the plan all along. We just got to say yes.
Amen.
We got to say yes to our rise. But the thing is that sometimes we think we're meant to do it all. And as soon as we see a vision or we see something we're supposed to do, all of a sudden we go into, okay, how am I going to do this? And you ain't supposed to ask yourself that question. Who's going to come into my life that I'm going to do this with? What's God going to do with this? And so as soon as I just started saying yes every day, God, I just say yes. I say yes. Everything has fell in place in a way that I could never even have imagined a couple years ago. Because I got my LLC in 2023, but I didn't even know what it meant. Okay, I got one. What does that mean?
Right.
I got my EIN. What does that mean? And then I started meeting people that helped me build the website, helped me do all the things. All the people started to come in around me, but I had to get into the place where I was just saying yes to me and yes to the vision that God gave me and not worrying about the how, but the who and the why. And once you start doing that, everything starts falling into place. And so with R.I.S.E in particular, I'm doing mindset coaching. I'm doing motivational speaking, and I'm literally at a place that has an event space, a podcast room, and an office. We have a design room where I'm doing all the merch, I'm doing all the things, and I'm going to be launching a lot in May
Now
as well.
You're sharing all this that you have at your disposal. How much of that did you have to invest into to get it going?
I invested my skill set that he needed. So what I mean by that is that I've learned the power of sharing services, because when it's kind of like the old bartering system.
Right.
Okay, you're good at business consulting. I'm good at mindset coaching. You're good at Canva. I know how to streamline all your curriculum.
So all this came together by the power of God connecting you with Ray. And with Ray, you've been fortunate enough to have this at your disposal with no overhead expense. Nothing that you
No.
have to put in
I just
aside
walk
from
into
your
a place.
talents, right?
I'm literally walking into a place, a dream space every day, and all the people that's part of the dream team. Miss Tammy, if you see this, I'm shouting you out. She was another one that God brought into my life. She was running a women's empowerment group already and a
Okay.
cleaning service. And she literally had the word rise in her workshops. She had sayings in her women's empowerment group that was in my sayings and in my workshops. And me and her connected, now we're doing things together. But literally at Dream Tree Academy, every adult that's in that building, they get to use that space to dream, and we all share services with one another.
Now, is it called
Dream Tree
Team?
Academy.
Dream Tree Academy?
Dream Tree Academy there in
Okay.
Columbia, Missouri.
Now, this wasn't the name you came up with. This
Oh no,
already existed.
Yep, Ray
Okay.
Hall. It was already. He's on his 5th year, but 1 year in that building. And I came in to talk with him about professional growth and development training, doing mindset coaching with his youth and with his staff. But he also has the University of Missouri interns that come in there. So I came in talking about coaching because, again, you think you want to tell God what you're going to do, right?
Right.
I came in talking about what I can do, and he's like, heck yeah, you can do that. But then he was like, but wait a second. You can do this, 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 and this. And it turned into being the program director and helping him take his vision even further. But at the same time, I am still Priscilla Rose, the founder and CEO of Rose Speaks.
Okay.
We all have our own businesses that we're doing, and we're doing it out of that space.
But leveraging each other's strengths to create that dream tree.
Yes.
Powerful. Powerful. You were sharing something earlier with me, and it just came to mind because of the fact that you touched on Dream Tree. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that? It was geared towards the roots. You were telling me as far as there's different roots, or was it the seeds that were planted, and through those seeds, roots are developed. But depending what areas people go into, they could spread out. Remember that?
And see, it's always crazy because God gives you a piece of the picture. Don't let you get to experience all at one time, because you can't have a whole bucket of ice cream at one time. You eat the whole damn thing. And so when I was at Rosetta Avenue Learning Center, that's where I was a principal at, right?
Right.
So March of 2020, I legally became Priscilla Rose, right? Few months later, I was asked to be the principal of Rosetta Avenue Learning Center,
Excuse me.
right? And there, my daughter was a part of painting a tree
Okay.
there. Now, mind you, this is 2020, not 2025. There was a tree that she helped paint. And the motto that we had at Rosetta Avenue Learning Center is we learn, we grow, and we become better together. Which wasn't even from Rosetta. It was from in 2018. I had a group of 5th grade students when I was a teacher, and I was about ready to leave to come to Columbia. And I asked these elementary kids if you could create, no, it was 2015. If you could create an elementary school from the ground up, what would it look like, right? And when I interviewed for that job at Rosetta Avenue Learning Center, I literally interviewed with a PowerPoint presentation. So the kids gave me the vision of the school that God was going to give me 3 years later.
Powerful.
And then when I get there, God gave me the vision of the tree. And then 5 years later, he has me at a place, Dream Tree. And everything has came together. He was giving me little pieces all throughout the time because it wasn't meant for me to see the whole vision yet, because I wasn't ready yet, Jay. God ain't going to give you the blessings that you ain't ready for yet, because I had to heal from the inside out before I would know what his love was all about.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just when you're growing up and people tell you just got to be strong, right? That's what I heard all the time. I didn't have no roots other than, Priscilla, you just got to be strong. Well, I knew I was a good person. I had some moral roots and things like that, but my roots was surviving. But it wasn't until I did the work on the inside of me that I realized that we weren't meant to just survive. We were meant to strive and find our own rise with tools to thrive.
Amen.
So that's when I built the STR Rose process with the rise of read, imagine, and script exercise, because you can have a vision all day long. You can have a dream all day long. But unless you write it down first and then actually put a plan together, God's going to give you all those little seeds, right? He's going to give you the pieces of your picture, but it's never going to grow until you actually take the time to meet the right people, put the who's in your life, all the little tools that you need. And so we did this tree at Dream Tree where there was an intern from Mizzou that she did the white just like we did at Rosette Avenue Learning Center 5 years ago. And the kids went in and put the colors to represent diversity, and they all come from different places and things like that, and they all made leaves, and they all came up with their power word. And it was very humbling a couple weeks ago when they did that tree, because God had been showing me this vision for over almost 7 years, but I wouldn't have been ready for what I'm experiencing right now until I became Rose. We have to rise into our greatness before we can find out even what it feels like to be great.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. And everything that you've shared, and Priscilla Rose, the name and how it became, it's just tying all back to that seed, the roots, and going back to you even speaking on the mask that you had, right? There's a lot of times I have people share certain things and how they react to stuff in life, and I always ask, what is the root cause? And you've touched on every single one of that from the very beginning. So can you speak one more time on each letter in R.I.S E, what that stands for our viewers?
Yes. So the R stands for read. What you fill your mind with is so, so, so important.
Right.
And so I learned how to find me by reading about other people that found themselves. Mm-hmm. So when I started listening to Ed Milet,
I love him.
When I started listening to Mel Robbins, when I started listening to Tony Robbins, when I started listening to Les Brown, I immediately let me find all the books that these people wrote, because their story captured me, but it was helping me find my own story. So when you read, you imagine, and you're going to find your place on that page. And so reading was very critical. So every part of R.I.S E is all the steps that I personally went through to find mine. And then the I is imagining. You have to not only imagine something, but you've got to really feel it. Whatever your dream may be. Like there's this stage in Columbia that's kind of hidden at a park. Every week I go there and I stand on that stage and I imagine being in front of 10,000 people. And when I'm on that stage, I'm in front of 10,000 people. I allow all of my senses to imagine it. I feel it everywhere. I hear the sounds of the people and everything. Well, Tony Robbins talks about that all the time, the power of immersing yourself in the vision that you're imagining. And then with scripting is you have to journal, you have to write. Whatever your vision is, even the word of God, right? Make it plain. God talks about the importance of writing a vision, literally writing it down, because it's recorded then. And so I started writing letters to my future self, and I would let Rose write back to me. In the mornings I would write to her, and at night she would write back to me. Mm-hmm. And so that was where the scripting came in. And the exercising of the mind, the body, and the spirit, I started learning about mindfulness. I started learning about meditation and somatic breathing. I did all the things of how do I exercise the mind, the body, and the spirit. So then once I had the concept, then I was like, okay, Priscilla, it's time to do a dream book. It's time to do a journal. It's time to do a planner. It's time to do a card set, right? So when I do my R.I.S E workshops, people actually have something physical in their hand that they can work through. But everything and all these products are coming out in May, y'all, just saying. But once people have a physical product of mine, I want them to be able to have access to it for a lifetime. So they can keep replenishing it, because it's set up for 90 days. But they can keep replenishing it. But
speak yes. More on the products if you don't mind.
Yes. So the dream book, it all came because in 2022, when I started doing my vision board, right, a Steve Harvey clip came across on YouTube.
Love him too.
And he done a 6-minute video on 300 things. I think I sent you that video a long time ago.
Yeah.
But in this video, he talked about how whenever he got on stage for the first time and he won his $50, he quit his job the very next day. And everybody in his family thought he was crazy. But the girlfriend that he had at the time, he told her, he said, I found out what I'm supposed to do. I want to spend the rest of my life making people laugh. And he was homeless for 3 years, sleeping out of his car, going after that dream.
Such a powerful story.
But one night, he wrote down 300 dreams, and he read it every morning, and he read it every night. And within 1 year, he was like 30% of his dreams came true, and he kept doing that, right? And he talked about how when you get to about 75, it's going to get a little difficult because you're going to have to find those dreams that you forgot about when you were a kid. And he said, just keep going. It took me 2 weeks to write my 300 dreams. And I'm going to tell you what I did on the train right here. I pulled up the 300 dreams because I hadn't looked at them in a while. And 33 of those dreams have came true since 2022. I highlighted all of them last night on the train.
That's awesome. You made me think about the vision board. I put a vision board a few years back, and I was looking at it as we moved to Elgin, I shared with you, and pulling out the vision board, I'm like, it's wild that some of the things that are on there have taken place. The power of, your dream book, vision board, and so on. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. And so in this dream book, I'm going to take women through that journey, or anybody who wants to pick up the dream book, honestly, but I'm going to take them through that journey. Every product that I have is taking people through a journey that I've already went through, that I know how powerful it is. And in all of these products, I've got pieces of my story in there of what I did with the 300 dreams. And so last night, while I was on the train, I wanted to highlight everything because I'm literally going to put my dreams in there.
Oh, that's powerful.
So people can see what mine was, and or still is, actually. I still got a lot that I'm working on. And 2 of those dreams came true because you brought me here.
Wow.
So in 2022,
God did.
Yes, in 2022, I said that I was going to go to Chicago. It was one of my dreams. I didn't even know why I wanted to go to Chicago.
You really said that?
Yeah.
In 2022?
I'll literally show you it was literally that I was going to take a trip to Chicago.
Okay.
I knew there was something that I was supposed to do here. And I also said I was going to ride on a train. So as soon as you invited me, I was like, wait a second, I can knock 2 more things off. I'm going to ride on a train. I'm going to come to Chicago.
Yeah.
And but that was literally 2 of the things that was in my 300 things. And that was very awe-inspiring to me last night while I was going through that exercise on the train is, I literally got to knock off 2 of those things in here. So when you know something works for you, you're not meant to hold on to a gift. I have to share that gift with other people. The power of writing down their 300 dreams. But also when you write down these dreams, you're going to figure out stuff that you'd forgot about. Like over 20% of the stuff on my 300 dreams is all about travel. And so that's why in 2023, I got my passport. Because I was like, I don't know where in the hell I'm going, but I'm going to get this passport. And it says you can have 60 stamps in 10 years. So that tells me I got to go to 60 countries in 10 years. I ain't even went to the first one yet, but that's going to happen next summer. But
you said you don't have a spot yet that you want to use it to? Or
No. I said I haven't used it yet.
But you have something in mind.
Oh,
Where's
yes.
the first place?
My first place is I'm going to Europe.
Awesome.
Yes. First place is going to Europe. I want to backpack across Europe. I want to go to Greece and Africa. That's like my top 3 or whatever. And hell, I might be able to pull all of that off in 2026. Oh, but so that's with the dream book. And the journal is taking people through the exercise of writing to their future version of themselves that they see, but they don't know what it feels like yet. You can want something, but not even know what it feels like when you get it.
Wow.
I knew I wanted something different growing up because I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. But when I got to walk with my daughter into her first college, that was the day that it mattered. And so now the huge big dream is I'll become the first millionaire in my family by impacting over 1 million lives. But when I told my oldest son that, he said, don't worry, Mom, I'll be the second.
Oh, wow.
Because when you dream big, you give your kids the courage to dream even bigger.
Yes.
And that's what's happened. And so I started writing to Rose every day. and I would let her write back to me on how life was going. She tells me about the house I live in. She tells me about the future husband that one day I'm going to get. You know, she tells me about all the things, right? I get to listen to her every night before I go to bed. So I'm not going to bed with the anxiety of tomorrow because she's telling me about what's on the other side. And so I know how much that has worked for me. So again, I want to share that gift with other people. And then with the planner is taking them through that routine in the morning that's going to help them become successful, which is the R.I.S.E routine.
Okay.
And so in the planner, I go through and explain what, different books and stuff that I've read, and like Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Have you read that?
I have not.
Highly, highly suggest it. But that's where I learned the Miracle Morning routine. And I kind of modeled a lot of the R.I.S.E routine from that, because that routine, it just changed my life. Getting up like crazy early in the morning or whatever. And the first hour that you wake up, you never touch your phone. The last hour before you go to bed, you don't touch your phone. You know, that you give that time for yourself in between you and God. But I take people through that plan. And now the card set. I use that in workshops, but it's I love me card sets.
It's like affirmations?
Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that in the fact that
Okay.
I didn't know how to love me, Jay, till I was 38 years old. Because when the only love you've ever experienced was hurt, pain, and shame, that's what you equate to love. I never was loved without those things. Until I learned to love me the way God loves me, I knew that I could never attract the love that I want in my life, whether it was in a business partnership, whether it was in a friendship, whether it was in a romantic relationship, whatever the case may be. So I spent 6 years learning how to love me. What does it look like to love Priscilla Rose? And then the second part of the set is this is how I want you to love me, where you share with others what love means to you. Because you could give love to someone and you know you're showing them love, but they don't receive it as love because they don't recognize that as love.
So similar to the Five Love Language of Gary Chapman, which I encourage every couple to read. But even if you're not involved in a relationship, still read it. But understanding that there's so much power behind that, because you're right. Their love language could be gift giving, and someone doesn't receiving may not see it that way. You know, okay, well, thank you, I'm grateful, but that doesn't mean to me that you love me, just that you're generous. But you touched on love, and for me that's powerful, because I always tell my kids, I have three, Jailene, Nathan, and Jaylani, and I tell them you have to learn to love you. And before you could ever be involved in a relationship and feel that you can love someone else, first love you. Be whole with you. But I love what you also added on. Love you the way God loves you. That's powerful.
And you teach people how to love you by what you accept. And if you've never learned boundaries, healthy boundaries, if you've never seen a healthy relationship growing up or anything else like that, because I grew up without a father. My mom was a single mom. And I wasn't born by choice. And there's been a lot of healing in my family with me and my mom and my grandmother. Whenever I chose to start healing, we, as a family, the women in our family chose to heal together from generational trauma and abuse and things like that. And so I wanted it to stop with me. And I wanted my daughter to be able to see what true love's supposed to look like. Even how she watched her mom love herself. My daughter Bethany, she'll be 21 in October. Crazy. But she's been my angel on earth. It was in her eyes that I found the courage to leave. And because she's seen some things she should have never seen. And it was that look in her eyes when she was 14 that told me, it's done. It's done. It stops with me. And so our kids give us strength, but our kids also pick up how we love ourselves. Are we taking care of ourselves? Our bodies, our mind, the people that we allow to come into our lives, to come into our home with them. So when I get those messages from my daughter of her telling me how proud she is of me, and my oldest son, a week ago, he told me, he said, Mom, yeah, we seen a lot. We went through a lot. We seen you go through a lot. But he said, if I ever could have a superhero, it would be you, Mom.
Wow.
Like when you hear those things from your kids. Because like it was my oldest son that taught me how a man should be to his wife. It was my oldest son that taught me how a father should be with how he is with my daughter-in-law and with my grandkids. My kids have taught me more than I could have ever learned otherwise. And the third part of that card set, it's a 3-piece set, is I celebrate me. Because how many times do we go after big goals and we don't even take a moment to celebrate ourselves and celebrate the small things of my son sent me a text and told me he loved me today. And he's 23. He still loves his mom. You know, little things like that. Taking in those moments. So it takes, you know, people through the journey of writing down their celebratory moments and taking a moment to just celebrate. Yes. And when they're getting down, they can pull back from the jar because they get to pull the cards back out the jar, you know, to remind them of something that they accomplished. But that's the actual physical products, and that's going to be coming out next month.
The dream book, mm-hmm. the journal, mm-hmm. the cards,
and the planner.
Mm-hmm. And I know additionally, and I'll share with the viewers today, because this is one of them, right? Is that part of your product line?
Yeah. So the apparel is because it comes with the packaging. Yeah. So like people will pick a hat, they'll pick I'll have 2 different types of hats. And then they'll have the shirts. Like I have the black shirt here, and I've got the white ones.
So that's right here.
And because the women that's local with me in Columbia, I'm starting a R.I.S.E at 7 a.m. club next month, for example, where the women get to pick a tank top or a shirt. They'll get their hat, they'll get their water bottle, and when they come to my workshops, they'll get the books and all the things, right? But at the end of 6 weeks, they get a ticket to Golden Night, which is going to be a fashion show with all of my different apparel, where the women get to like do a survey of like what pieces they like, what they don't like, because it's this whole thing of just rise up and be beautiful, you know? And that comes from the inside out. What does that look like, you know? But their hats at Golden Night, they're going to get to personalize with their power word.
Oh, I like that.
You know, their shirts, they're going to get to bling up their rose. And so, because I want everything that I'm doing with people to be personal to them, because everybody's got their own story. Everybody's got what they need to rise into to be great.
Yes.
But we all have greatness in us. We all have unique skills, talents, and abilities that it's a shame not to share with the world. One of the greatest quotes that I ever heard from Les Brown, and it's paraphrasing obviously, but he said one of the worst things is to be laying in your deathbed and be surrounded by the ghosts of the things that you didn't do, because God gave them to you and now they die with you because you didn't have the courage to live in the dream and the plan and the purpose that God gave you. I do not want to be surrounded by anything that God gave me that I didn't do while I was here.
Yes. I think he even shared being at a cemetery and looking at the amount of people that are buried and never got to live their dream. So
yep, he says, live full, die empty.
Yeah. And he has another quote that I like. I believe it's Les Brown, right, where he says, you know, fall back so many times and get up. You know, so no matter what, still rise. Which ties back to you. So. Excellent. Anything else that you'd like to share with the viewers? I mean, I know that you and I could spend hours here together and talking, because there's so much to your story, but all that tells me is that in the future we have to do this again and be able to add more. But I love what you're doing. I'm proud that you're fulfilling that, because we've touched on this before, but like you said, you know, many don't take that leap, and you definitely are a great example of someone that does not limit their identity, made the point to rise and fulfill their dreams, and you're just getting started. There's so much more to come, but I know you're going to check off more off your list. But with that, any final message for the viewers that you'd like to share, or anything that we might have missed?
Can I share a poem with them?
Absolutely.
One that's actually on my heart to share in this moment right now?
Yes, please.
So as I was explaining to you earlier, when I was growing up, everybody told me that you just got to be strong all the time, just be strong. But nobody ever told me like what it looks like or what it's supposed to be or how am I supposed to just get strong. So one of the very first poems that I ever wrote was Be Strong. So I'm going to share that poem.
All right.
That's okay.
Yes.
Be strong. If walls could tell their stories and doors unlock themselves, everyone would have a view of their own secret hell. But walls don't talk and doors don't unlock themselves. But we all have a story to tell. Be strong, be tough, girl, you got this, just move on. Living in the past is not where you belong. No time to heal, to feel, or even be real because, hey, you just got to be strong. But what is being strong? How am I supposed to just get strong? Is being strong not healing, not feeling, not caring about how people treat you? Is being strong putting on your mask, your armor, your I'm just surviving on? Surviving the day, the circumstance, the situation? What a compilation of misrepresentations. But you're a warrior, a fighter. Look at all you've done and all you've accomplished. Yeah, I was also the one living in pain, shame, and taking all the blame in self-hate's name. Because at home is where I belong, even if at home was filled with stories that I could not tell. Sometimes you just want to hear someone say, I'll be strong with you. Handheld, upheld. Let's be strong together. Be strong.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Beautiful. I know that's another area you focus a lot in with poetry, and you've done impacts with that in the community as well. So, Priscilla, it's a blessing to be able to have you here. I appreciate you traveling. It's crazy how you had a plan back in 2022 and how God put that plan together to allow us to connect. And I know that at some point, and we touched on when you were at the school as a principal, maybe coming out speaking to the students. But I know God has a plan for you and I to go on stage and impact others and have that power summit event where we empower the youth to be able to not limit their identity, to
Oh, it's
rise.
happening. We're going to say it right here in the podcast. The Power Up Conference is happening.
All right. All right. So, familia y amigos, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's very special to me, to have a guest that's willing to commit and travel to be here to share her story. You heard Priscilla share, the mask that she carried for years and how she eliminated that mask. And I know that many could relate with that. The power behind rising and going after her dreams and how God has placed people in her life. So I encourage you to not only like or comment, but to share, to create awareness about this, because there's many out there that might be battling with something similar. There's a story out there for everyone to relate to. As you know, Don't Limit Your Identity. We have our nonprofit. Our goal is to empower the youth the same way that Priscilla Rose is. Out in Missouri, we want to do in the Chicagoland area. If you feel led and you want to donate, visit www.don'tlimityouridenty.com. Give what you can, whatever you can. Every dollar helps, and our goal is to give that back to the communities that we serve and be able to empower the youth through financial literacy, workforce development, and God willing, someday provide grants as well. With that, make sure that you follow Priscilla Rose, and I'm going to turn it back to her because I want her to share what platforms you could connect with her. But also, we're going to share a QR code where you can scan and visit her website to be able to look at the products that are coming. You heard them directly from her, and it's going to be that dream book, that journal, the planner, the cards, all great resources. One thing that I firmly believe in is that knowledge is not power unless you apply that knowledge. So take advantage of this podcast, visit her platform, visit her website, and be able to leverage these tools that she's giving, making them available for you. So with that, Priscilla, do you mind just sharing with the viewers how they can connect with you? And we'll make sure to add the QR code as well.
All right. Sounds good. So I just got a website, so it's going to steadily be getting upgraded, but you can go to strrosespeaks.com. You can also follow me on Facebook underneath Priscilla Rose, and then on Instagram, STR Rose Speaks as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, familia y amigos. Take care, and God bless.